There he is. Speak of the devil.
Yes, sorry. Yeah.
It's all good. You came in just in time. I was just about to start my little spiel.
Okay, spiel away.
All good. All right, welcome folks to the madness that is DBA fundamentals. Today we're talking with Justin Deering on Git for DBAs. As always, today's is May 17th, 2022. In the upper right-hand corner of the screen, you'll see the three leaders of the DBA fundamentals group: Steve Cantrell, Shane O'Neill, and myself, Kevin Wilkie. To the right of our names, you'll see our Twitter handles if you need to get a hold of us for any odd reason. Below that, you'll see our various ways to get a hold of us via social media. Top one is on Meetup, where you probably hit our group to start with in today's presentation. Below that is our website, dbafund.org, where you can see any of our past and upcoming presentations. You can find any and all of them from all time, or at least as long as the internet is available. Below that, you can go to our website, or our media website, dbafundtube.com, where you can find all of our past presentations. Also, make sure to actually click on the subscribe button so that you will know exactly when today's presentation is available for use, and any of our upcoming presentations as well. It's a great way to just get it the second you know, so you don't have to come back and check on our website all the time. Below that is our Twitter handle at DBAFun. And below that also is our Slack channel and our LinkedIn channel as well, so that you can find us in any of our various ways. As I said earlier, today's session is being recorded and usually will be available within 1 to 2 days. So be sure to check us out on dbafundtube.com, and you can watch to your delight. Also, as a reminder, remember to turn off your video and mute yourself so that it won't mess with Justin or any of our presenters as we go about talking and showing everything to you. If you do have any questions, please be sure to type them into the chat as well. And with that, we go to Justin. Small bio, but it works. So with that, Justin, take it away, my friend.
Okay, thank you for having me. Yeah, I will jump right into it. My name is Justin Deering. I am a .NET developer by trade, but I go to a lot of SQL Saturdays, and I'll talk about why I think I'm qualified to talk about Git for the DBA as I get into it. So yeah, that is that's my Twitter handle and my email address and my GitHub repo. So if you have any feedback, feel free to contact me there. Basically, just kind of a little bit about me technically. Like I'm very familiar with Microsoft SQL Server, and I also do Postgres and DB2, MySQL. I've done some SQLite, some ArcGIS. I've done, I guess, mostly a .NET developer, but I'm doing a lot of DevOps these days, so a lot of Terraform and PowerShell, but I've done PHP, Python, TypeScript, and of course, TSQL in the past. I've been like a ETL developer, so I'm a .NET developer that does not like ORMs and definitely prefers like data first to code first ORMs, and I also know how, when using a code first ORM, how to make sure that it's actually performing, so DBAs don't kill me, because I go to SQL Saturdays. You have plenty of opportunities to do that. But as you can see from my Stack Overflow badges, which are a little old, yeah, I'm more of a developer than a DBA, but I do spend some time on the DBA Stack Exchange. Right. So anyway, I feel like this is why I feel like I'm qualified to talk to DBAs about Git. So we're going to talk about a big portion of this will be just me literally live doing Git commands. But we're gonna have to go through some slides first. So we're going to talk about the Git ecosystem. I'm going to talk about why I think it's necessary for a Microsoft Data Pro to do that if you have any doubts. Although I guess you're pretty much convinced if you're here. And we're going to talk about using Git from Visual Studio and from the command line. Most of this will be from the command line, but we will talk about it doing it from this Visual Studio as well. particularly SQL Server, development tools, of course. So yes, I do think you need to learn how to use Git from the command line, even if you rarely ever actually do it. I think just having that just understanding it first and being able to be somewhat comfortable doing that is important, which is why, and I think it's so important. I will sit there and I will break the rule of demos and type in a demo, because if you can watch me use Git from the command line, in front of all you people, then you'll have the courage and comfort to be able to try that, from your own cubicle, when you're not, because I guess we're all in front of our cubicles now, because we're not in front of each other because they're virtual. But the point is, you can do it in the privacy when you don't have anyone staring at you virtually. So that's why I do that, and I do feel if you understand how to do stuff from the command line, how to do Git from the command line in particular, because that's where everything started with. When things go wrong on the UI, you'll kind of know what's going on. You'll have a better feel for things. So that's my feeling there. What is Git? Git is distributed version control. So before we get into what distributed version control is, what is version control in the first place? By the way, anyone, if someone's monitoring the chat, just feel free to interrupt me with questions as they come up. Don't hold them to the end. So version control, like the most basic, I guess, definition is the storing of changes of data, and usually using our source code or documents, such as we can track the changes over time. And usually in software-based version control, we talk about the ability to tag change sets and to do branches and merges. So by that definition, yes, SharePoint is a version control system for business documents, for Word documents and spreadsheets, because you can track changes over time. You can, tag that. You can say that a certain version of a document is a tag, right? You can't do a branch and a merge, right? But I say if you're familiar with SharePoint, you're familiar with using the history features of document tracking with SharePoint or any other similar tool, that absolutely is version control, even if it's not version control for a software paradigm. Distributed version control. So I said Git was distributed version control, right? So practically speaking, what that means is traditionally in version control, if you've used Subversion or TFS or Perforce or Visual Sourcesafe, which I hope you've never used and I hope you're not using currently. You normally just clone a particular, the latest version of the repo, or whatever latest version of your branch you're on, right? But with Git or other distributed version control systems like Mercurial Git and some other things, you clone the entire repo, the entire history, all the branches, and you store all that locally in a compressed database as opposed to a specific revision. And then you push and push push and pull individual branches between your local copy and the remote copy. Now, because of this, the main repo is defined policy-wise, because any client in theory could become a server, right? So so in the most basic form, if you're working on a laptop, I'm working on a laptop, and I have enough local admin, domain admin, and I can go slash your server name, slash your laptop name /$C slash wherever your Git repo is, I could push to your repo locally and use that, right? So we have to have just security and policy and other things, just to say what the main repo is, because of that. Naturally, that usually the GitHub repo and Azure DevOps repo, we're not writing to each other's laptops, but just that's the thing to consider. And any repo could become, and the good thing about that is if Azure DevOps goes down and your shared Git server goes down, anybody's laptop could recover the whole version control history. That's nice, distributed backups, because you guys are DBAs and backups are good, right? That's how we avoid resume generating events. Okay, so if you ever heard, there's a thing called Git for Computer Scientists, and it talks about how Git works under the hood, and it talks about storing the revisions in what's called a DAG, or directed acyclic graph. If you're new to Git, don't feel like you have to know this. I just want you to know that this exists as a thing. As you get more familiar with Git, you're gonna maybe care about the internals a little more, and once you have familiarity with basic muscle memory, the basic command, understanding the directed acyclic graph will help you better understanding of Git. Just like a developer could probably get pretty far not understanding the difference between a heap and a table with a clustered index, and what a clustered versus a non-clustered index is, and the intricacies of the B plus tree, and table scans versus index scans in SQL Server, they get relatively far, and eventually probably paint them a hole where a DBA has to rescue them. I think it's the same thing with Git. You can get started right away, and actually knowing the internals, the way the internals are laid out in Git, there's never like an optimization thing where you actually truly need to know the internals from a performance point of view. But just know that exists. Know that when you're ready, you can go to Git for computer scientists, and maybe you have a computer science background, you like reading about the low level of algorithms. So just that's go to that web page and read about that. If not, just know it exists, and as you get familiar, I'm not going to make you familiar enough in an hour where you're going to care about the internals of Git. And like I said, it's not necessary for day-to-day usage, but for advanced proficiency, it's a thing you should maybe eventually get familiar with down the road. Okay, so now we just where can you host your Git repo, right? So we work in the cloud these days, right? Most of us. You can host on GitHub, which is owned by Microsoft. So you can host it in Bitbucket, which is made by the Jira people. I don't know anyone who actually likes Jira, but if you happen to be Bitbucket, the Bitbucket product for hosting Git repos as opposed to GitHub, it's a fairly good product. It's not a big mess, like using I guess Jira for your issue tracking is, but it actually integrates a little better. There's Gitlab, which is a open source like product where you could that's their cloud offering, but you can also run the software locally and it's completely free, or you can pay them for a support license. And then Azure DevOps, and Azure DevOps is literally Team Foundation server replacing the TFS like version control with Git and just putting that in a web UI, right? So Azure DevOps is literally TFS on the cloud. So Microsoft does have like two products for hosting your source code, GitHub and Azure DevOps, and they can even talk to each other. You can use Azure DevOps, but using GitHub as your Git repo, and use Azure DevOps for CI/CD and issue tracking. Otherwise, you can also do it, on premise, right? On premises. Said that word wrong. Options, you can store Git repo in a UNC shared folder. That's the shadow IT option. I do not recommend it. I did that once. I had a role where I was a sales engineer, and basically I never really got to talk to the actual developers of the product, and I had to keep my demos, and I couldn't get access to TFS. And I had some PowerShell scripts to talk to the web API, and I used just a UNC folder. I'm not going to demo how to do that. If anyone has any questions, I could just reach out to me. I can get that there, but that's a legitimate option, as far as shadow IT goes, but obviously try to do something more real than that. GitHub Enterprise, so you can pay GitHub to install the copy of the GitHub server software on in your data center. That is, from what I understand, like really expensive, like more expensive than SQL Server Expensive Edition. That's like your CFO is signing, the purchase order for that. That's not like your manager putting down a credit card, your manager signing the PO. That's very expensive. Bitbucket Data Center Edition, once again, just like you can install Jira locally on a server, you can on your data center, you can install Bitbucket there. GitLab, you can do that for absolutely free, or you can pay for a support license. I'm not sure if the pricing is that much more, I guess, competitive pricing there. The features of that is not as great. And then there's Azure DevOps Server, which is basically what they renamed TFS. So just you can install good old TFS, in your data center or on a virtual machine on Azure. I don't know the advantage of doing it that way. But you can, and then you basically have your own copy of TFS that basically just like you always did. Yeah. So and just to clarify with these things, so these things provide a central repository, central Git repo to push and pull to your software changes, and they all provide ways of doing bug tracking, work items, and all that workflow like project management stuff. So the Git protocol and the part of moving the source code up and down and making branches and stuff like that is all the same, speaking the same protocol across these. Just like there are many web servers, there are many web browsers, but all the work tracking, the work items and project planning and NAT chart generation and that kind of stuff is completely proprietary between all those, so you can't easily migrate that. but it's very easy to, if you just had like all your source code in GitHub Enterprise and you wanted to move to GitLab, or you wanted to move to TFS, or you wanted to move to GitHub, moving between them is literally, very easy to migrate that part of the simple operation. It's all the work item tracking that is completely proprietary, and you need special tools from third-party companies and custom scripting to do, and lots of testing. Okay. So anyway, Git host selling. So the selling point to the enterprise. If I had to sell any of these to my CTO or your CTO, GitHub I think is the best definitely if you're publicly sharing open source. Like for example, Allstate has a thing called Compose, or what Microsoft does, right? Microsoft has a lot of open source stuff that they develop internally, but share open source. There's .NET itself is open source. There's the PowerShell module for SQL, the SMO objects, right? And it's also Microsoft owned and supported, right? So so for both ends of it, being super conservative and just being a full open source citizen as a corporation, GitHub had that. Bitbucket, it's built by the Jira people and has the best Jira integration. I'm not a fan of Jira, but I guess people I think end up with Bitbucket just really like Jira, which is not me. GitLab, so it's definitely the cheapest option for hosting on premises. I mean, you can literally do it for free. You just the compute cost plus your time. I mean, it's free if you don't value time, of course. And you can host for free without support license. So that's the real advantage for going to GitLab. It's a budget option. Azure DevOps, it's definitely the best migration path for Team Foundation Server. If you're currently using Team Foundation Server and you're using it with the TFS, the old school TFS style version control, and not with the built-in Git that's built into TFS, this is still the best path for merging that. And then the CI/CD component integrates with other repositories. So you can just use Azure DevOps, aka TFS in the cloud, for everything but actually hosting your source code. You can use it for your work items and also CI/CD. And what CI/CD means is CI is continuous integration. So that means taking your source code and compiling it and running like your unit test or whatever, or in the case of a database, usually just compiling. There are database unit testing frameworks. Usually in the database thing, you're taking all your SQL, your create table statements, and making sure they build into a database that you can like build it, runs it on like or building it into a what's the word? A DAC pack or a backpack to ensure that it's all valid SQL. And CD would be continuous deployment, which would be that taking that automatically deploying that to a server. So in the case of the database, usually, taking that DAC pack and merging against your real development server and running it against that, and what have you. Any question in the chat for any of this so far? Or I'll pause a second if anyone wants to ask a question, because I've been no questions so far. Okay, cool. Okay. So Git repos are analogous to I guess replica sets. It's not a perfect analogy, but you guys are DBA, so that's why I'm using this analogy with you. And this, and once again, the ability to use it, Git this way. This only applies to the source code, not to the bug tracking or the CI/CD and stuff, right? That's not portable. But if I have my computer, if I have my source code and I have my local Git repo and I'm developing my software and I have my branches or what have you, I can push that over to GitHub. I can push it over to GitLab. I can push it up to all three, right? And I can make them all sync with each other. So that makes migrations easy, and that allows me, if you want redundancy for whatever reason, I don't see a case for having that constant redundancy. But if you need that's very easy to do. It's very easy to just pull down the Git repo from GitHub and push it over to Azure DevOps or to Bitbucket, or even to just whatever, just to a different account on the GitHub. And this is open source project users a lot. They tend to move around for whatever reasons. A lot of things in the Apache Foundation, run on like their own Git server run by Apache, and then they decide, oh, we want to move to GitHub. Actually, that's one case for having the constant. That is one case for having the constant replication between all this is the Apache Foundation does this a lot. They have their own like Git repo. They have their own like bug tracking system on their webpage, but just because all the open source stuff happens on GitHub, and a lot of people just like to go to GitHub and file issues there, or just grab the code from there for whatever reason, they keep they will keep they'll constantly keep their Git repo in sync with the GitHub sync repo was kind of like, set up in like almost like a read-only fashion there. Okay, so now I've talked all about what the how Git works, how what version control is, but why should a DBA use GitHub or Git or source control in the first place? Is a question I've not asked. Okay, I considered atomicity the big point there, or the acid. I believe if you're if you have like a web app that and if you have like a web app that like has an OLTP, an online transaction processing database, and you have a .NET MVC app in front, and maybe like an Azure function doing some of the scheduled jobs or some of the long running jobs, right? You have all that. I believe that you should have one Git repo with all that, and you should have the source control, the SQL SSDT project, or however you're managing your SQL schema and version control. That should all be in one set of folders in one Git repo. And you should work on stuff. If you have a story, if you have an agile story where you're going to like add a new column, add a new row to something that becomes a row in the database and a row in the grid, or field in some form in the web app, and affect another CSV job that an ETL job that generates the CSV to go over to some mainframe or something. All that should be done atomically in the same repo, and that should be one pull request, one feature, one commit or one set of commits that's going to get merged into your software together, right? So I believe that's a big thing there, and also DevOps. So right, the original idea of DevOps was never supposed to be somebody's job title, right? That was not supposed to be a specialization. It was supposed to be, the idea was supposed to be that you had your developers, you had your ops people, you had your DBAs, and they all work together to create and they kind of like learned became tangentially where people's jobs. And any .NET developer could go and modify the Terraform if need be. You had ops people that were really good at setting up Terraform or whatever, but if there was some particular feature where you require intimate knowledge of the code or intimate knowledge of app services, a C# developer could do that. Or if there was intimate knowledge, you were doing something weird with the database, you get a DBA could sit there and say, why is the Terraform or why is the CI/CD failing to deploy my database to the new server? They could get in and touch things. They're just everyone, like the DBAs can read the app logs and figure out in the stack trace how that ties back to where this bad query plan and the slow query I'm seeing in my database ties back to the app code, so they can just go to the developer and they could both kind of look at the same things, right? I think that's the big thing. Getting everyone on the same page is the other big thing. And why should a DBA use SSDT in the first place? So by SSDT I mean SQL Server Development Tools, which is basically in Visual Studio, if you have a SQL project where you store your schema in a way where each file is a create table statement stored in a bunch of folders, and there's a .SQL project at top, and that thing can be used to take all those create tables and put it into a DAC pack or compare it against a real database and turn those into the alter statements. I think it should. I think that model just solves the way of storing database schema state in the best way possible, where you just sit there and say, this is what I want the database to look like, and it will figure out the diff thing. And not that you never have to, not that things don't break and you have to write your own alter table statements and your own migration scripts manually, and I mean, I did that back in the day. I'm relatively adept at that. It's just if you can automate that, and also just having that it's just easy to where you're kind of forcing yourself to store that state in that, like, this is the state of this is the final state, the declarative state, right? Just like SQL, SQL, the declarative language. You have the declarative state of this is what I want to have, and as far as getting yourself to how do you get from the current database to the new database, that's a separate concern that you either let CI/CD do, or you write your alter tables, your alter statements afterwards. And also, as far as if you have SSDT in there in your atomic repo with your SQL and all that, this is one way you can keep your ORM generate detail out of your database, right? If you sit there and say, okay, fine, I'll meet a developer halfway, you can't use code first, ORM, but I'll let you use the database first ORM, but I want to store the SQL in here, and we're going to use SSDT, and you guys sit there and say, this is what you're going to do, and this is how we can do that with, have that continuous integration where that automatically deploys to the database. This is how you, avoid the disaster, right? I mean, I recently had to touch a code first database where all the columns were like, nvarchar max, and I had to, and there was no automation in place, and it literally, when the app started up, it just automatically tried to deploy any schema changes. I had to go and like change some columns to be not nvarchar max, so I could add the index to make the 20-minute query take milliseconds. So I mean, I feel your pain, DBAs. I get that, because I've not all us developers, are bad, but this is meeting developers halfway is how you get there, right? Basically, and meeting people halfway, how we work as teams. That's how, the general life advice. And basically, like, big argument there is, I think as the best way to manage teams code, it lets you generate DAC packs super easy. And the database keeps in the same place as your code. That's my summary slide there. As far as installing Git for Windows, you go to git-scm.com, you download, you hit next. There's no issue there. You can get it on WinGet, you can get it on Chocolatey, you can get it, all the it comes built in when you install Visual Studio. You get Git installed, so getting Git installed is there's nothing to worry about. The only I guess when you install Git, you have a feature called Git Bash, and this is a really old screenshot from like XP that one day I should update. I've probably been using this for maybe a decade, but it's still there. It's still just like this. So when you install, so you can run Git from your command.exe. You can run Git from Windows WSL, Windows Service for Linux. You can run Git from PowerShell or PowerShell core, right? It's just the Git command is going to be on your path and call for any of these things, although they're perfectly valid. It includes a thing called Git Bash in case you don't have WSL or what have you. And that just has basically a little environment where it has the Linux Bash command on it. This is not something I'd even like. I'd probably recommend anyone using at this point, because if you really liked using Linux command on Windows, you would use Windows services for Linux. You'd use WSL and get a better, Linux environment with better Bash prompt. This is what I call the emergency break glass feature, because eventually, if you start using Git, you're gonna do something bad, and you're gonna want to rewrite history or do something dangerous, and you're gonna panic. You're gonna go to Stack Overflow. You're gonna go search that into Google. Google's gonna take you to Stack Overflow, and Stack Overflow is gonna tell you about doing like a interactive rebase to change all, because you use the wrong email address or the wrong username for all these commits, or you have to remove some commit, 20 commits in history because of some, copyright concern. You committed a password or some secret or something, and it's going to have all the commands you have to do that be written in Bash, in Linux commands, and you're not going to want to, in your panic and whatever, you're not going to have to translate all that from Bash to PowerShell, Bash to command line to do those things. So you want to be able to just kind of copy and paste that locally to run that, and that's why Git Bash is there. But like I said, it becomes less of a thing with WSL being pretty common here. Okay, so now we're just gonna, that's kind of enough of me talking over slides. Now we're gonna talk as I type in a demo, as I break the golden rule here. Okay, so we're gonna open up the terminal. By the way, you should really install terminals like the built-in like tabs or the new Microsoft replacements of command line with tabs and stuff. You can get it from the Windows Store. You should add it, and in Windows 11, the integration is super awesome. You should definitely be using it. Okay, so I'm just going to go. Normally, when you install Visual Studio, like all the source goes into like your home directory /source/repos. I'm just going to start here. Okay. Right, so we're here. We're just going to run this in Visual Studio Code, right? So if you have Visual Studio Code installed, there's a built-in terminal there. Is Visual Studio Code broken on my computer? This is the demo cost really hate me, really. Okay. Okay, that's great. Okay, this is going to be like even more raw in command line than this will be fun. Okay. Okay, I did not expect this to be this raw. I expected at least Visual Studio Code. Okay, so we're just going to make in this code, we're going to write our readme, right? Okay. Well. Right, so we wrote this great piece of software, right? So we have this over here. Oh, we want to so okay. So first thing we do, we got to make our Git repo. So we want DBA fundamentals to be our Git repo, okay? So we're going to type Git. The first command we're going to type is Git initialize, okay? And then it says we made an empty repository. It's going to make the .git folder. So the .git folder is where all like the Git metadata is. It's going to be all the versions of stuff. Everything else is just everything works from that folder. There's no locking of files, by the way, in Git like there was in Visual Sourcesafe, and you can enable in Git that. There's none of that. Locking was a solution in search of a problem. But now we're going to sit there and we're going to type Git status, okay? And whenever you get lost in Git, you're not sure what to do next, just type Git status. It's probably going to help you. Okay, so we're on branch master. We have no commits left, and we have untracked file called readme.md, which we just made, right? And it says Git add file to include what will be committed. Okay, so it even helps us. So we just type Git add readme, okay? So this stage of the file, this actually doesn't commit it anywhere. This just puts it it's staged, so now it's ready to be committed. Right, so now we're on branch master, no commits. That changes to be committed. Right, and I can if I want to uncommit it, I can use rm cache. That's the command to uncommit it, right? So once I to unstage, right? So there's a two-step process every time I want to add a file to Git, or even editing a file. So after I edit the file and make the changes. I do git add, which will stage it, and then I git commit. Okay, and then I type git status. Okay, and I'm going to type git status again. Okay, on branch master, nothing commit, working tree clean. If I want to see the history of all my commits, I can type git log, okay? Okay, and it says I have this one commit I made over here. That's the commit hash. It just generates one of these hashes, my initial commit over here. Okay, so I just wrote this beautiful piece of software, right? It's going to make my employer $1 billion. He's going to give me, a six-figure bonus. Everyone's going to be happy. Can I go take my laptop, walk downstairs? Because I'm actually in Manhattan now. I can actually get hit by a bus if I want to. Can I go take my laptop and get hit? Me and my laptop get hit by a bus, and that my employer still makes his $1 billion. Someone, okay. I'm going to go look at the or someone check the chat for answers. Or yes, no, and if no, why?
Nothing coming. Oh, there's one no.
One no. Is there a why?
Nope, no why.
No why.
There's a no stored locally.
No, it's stored locally. Correct. It's stored locally, right? So we said Git with distributed version control. All the history is stored locally, but we also have to push it somewhere, right? So we have to go somewhere. So we're going to store it in GitHub. Why are we going to store in GitHub? Because I just picked that and because I have a free account. So we're going to go here. So you go to GitHub. You want to make it. You have to sign in, make a new repository, set up two-factor authentication. All that is really straightforward. There's no magic there. You can have unlimited like free open source accounts. Actually, you can have private repos now too for free. We'll just call this one DBA fundamentals, right? For the DBA live coding, right? We can make it private if we want. I'm going to make it public. We can also create a README file. So we can add the README file here. We can add a Git Ignore, which is the Git Ignore are files that this contains like the files not to commit. So obviously, if you're writing like C# code, you don't want to commit like the DLL, the executables, or object file. We got an echo going here. Someone can mute their mic. And then same thing with a license. So if you're doing this open source, you can pick one of your open source licenses. If you're writing, closed source stuff, you're not going to like put one of these, obviously. But we just go here, we create a repository. Real simple. Okay. And then we sit there, it tells you, and never let anyone tell you the command line is unintuitive, because it tells you what to do here, right? So we want to push an existing repository from the command line, right? So I've got all these commands. I can go here and I can copy that to the clipboard. And because this is Windows 11, this is not Windows XP or some old version where copying and pasting to the command line, didn't work. We can just paste, right? We'll paste these commands. Okay. So we're gonna add the remote. So basically a remote copy of the repo we store like that link in it, literally using the git remote command. And we're gonna make a branch. We're gonna make a branch called main. Okay, so actually, yeah, this is we're making a new branch called main, and we're gonna push it there. So actually, just a I get the brief. So originally the default branch in Git used to be called master, and it still is. But I guess after the Black Lives Matters protests, the people said using master slave terminology is bad. I don't know if this actually doesn't make, I don't know, does it actually make the world a better place? But a lot of people say the default repo should be main, and so like GitHub will encourage you to make your default repo main. So it did change the default branch over here from master to main. So that that's what that is about there. But anyway, so we're here. We're going to reload this page over here, right? That we typed those commands, and now we have our source code here. Right, and go here, and you can edit inside of GitHub. I rarely edit source code inside of GitHub with this online editor. I do it when I give these demos, mainly because it's easier than making two folders, so I can demonstrate merge conflicts and things. But you can go in here, and we can say tools hello from the virtual user group. That's right. Okay, but I can go in here, and we're not going to talk about branches yet, but we will. So we're just going to commit directly to main over here. And then let's say we go here, right? So we go back to Notepad. Okay, hello from a virtual user group, right? Oh, just to cover these commands. So this remote and this, we switched the branch the first time for master and main. You have to use the branch command. You normally use the checkout command to change branches. But the push. So the thing you're going to constantly be doing is doing git pushes and pulls and fetches. So push the remote, pull to pull down. Fetch I'll talk about in a little bit. So obviously this remote add though is literally like a one-time thing you do here. Okay, so let's go over here and we say we go here, we save this file. Okay, so there are so like I said, you always have to do git add before you do the commit. Okay, so right, so we type our git status, right, and it says this is modified, so we have to go through our two steps: git add readme, git commit -m. Okay, and so whenever you commit, you have to put a commit message, so you do -m in the message. Now the problem is you can just skip the -m, but if you do that, you end up in a text editor called VI or Vim that no one on the internet knows how to exit. It's actually very easy to edit. It's not that hard to exit Vim, but people find Vim annoying. But anyway, so this is why you want to remember the /-m thing, because you probably hate Vim. Okay, so this is the to exit Vim, you type escape, you hit escape, and you hit :WQ to write it, right? Okay, so we're going to go here, and it's going to tell you we're ahead of the origin master by one commit, and you can use git push to push your local commits, okay? So this is obviously going to fail because we know we have a merge conflict on the other side, right? And it does fail, okay? And actually, let me make the text bigger. I apologize if anyone had any problem seeing it. I should have made this font bigger. So it rejected because the remote contains work you do not have locally. Okay, so Git makes so Git will make sure of these conflict for you. So you have to, when you have this, it'll give you an error. But generally the way you're always gonna, if you have a, and generally speaking, when you're actually doing this, everyone's gonna work off their own feature branch in most cases. So you're rarely gonna see these conflicts this way, because you probably shouldn't be directly committing to master, but just how you deal with it. You can do git pull, which will git pull will take your changes and bring them down locally from the remote thing, auto merging, right? And it says, okay, there's a conflict. Conflict, merge conflict in readme.md. And we're going to go here and we're going to reopen this notepad. Now, obviously, if you're using a real, like if you're using any kind of like Visual Studio Code or whatever, if you're using Visual Studio Code, I wish Visual Studio Code didn't die on my computer, but I've angered the demo gods because the Git, the diff feature that it's got a nice visual diff feature that I really like. I don't like the stuff built in the Visual Studio itself, but anyway, these highway arrows show the merge conflict, right? So this is the head, this is what's incoming, right? So we want to say hello from the virtual user group. We like the period, right? We hate code first ORMs. So we're just going to manually fix this, right? We're going to get rid of those merge marks over here. Maybe we'll, okay, and we'll save that. And then the two commands we have to do is we have okay, so in this case, so it said they're both modified because of the merge conflict, so we have to do the git add git commit -m. Let me see git log, right? So we have right, so we have our initial commit, the update readme.md, which we put in when we edited the file on the GitHub website. Then our more messages and our fixed merge conflict, right? And then we can do our git push. Okay, we got that over there. Go back to our repo over here, and we have our changes over here, right? Did I spell readme wrong? I spelled readme wrong. Okay, I'm having a wonderful day here. Okay, so anyway, but like I said, if you can watch me like make typos in front of all of you, you can feel this is why I do this, just so you can feel brave, because whatever stupid things happen, if Visual Studio Code doesn't open for you, you can just reinstall it because there aren't you know, a bunch of people waiting on you there. Okay, so now we got that. Let us demo how we doing. How much? What do we have a hard stop, Kevin? What is our hard stop? Just so I can
around about 1 o'clock.
Okay. We're gonna pivot to we're gonna pivot here. Actually, we'll do. Okay. Actually, let's do this. So you can use the .NET new command to make like new Visual Studio projects. .NET new. It's the first time we're running the .NET. Laser. Do I have SQL files in here? Okay, let's dump this. Okay, cool. Okay, so we go there. Did we open Visual Studio Code? Here, let's go. Open a project or solution. Source repos. Okay, so we just made an empty solution file, right? So we're gonna put a DBA project in here. No, we're not gonna update Visual Studio now. I accidentally hit yes to that button. We got a new project over here. And so the other cool thing, so you'll see about this, so I'm going into like that existing folder. So you can, from the Visual Studio or the command line or Visual Studio code, you can everything is stored, all the Git metadata is stored in that .git directory, right? Which I guess we're not showing hidden files here, but like they're the .git folder here, basically. So you can switch, you can run Visual Studio Code and Visual Studio and just command line stuff from the same folder at the same time. Okay. Cool. We got that. Okay. Okay. We'll just call that. We'll call it database. Naming seems it's hard. Yes, we did hit create at some point because it's not letting me push any buttons. Okay, cool. Okay, so in there we have the database, right? And we can type, just so you see, we have the Git status, we have the database one folder, we have a double SLN because I don't know how to name things. And we have our changes here, right? Just to go here, we can say add. Actually, let's do Azure Data Studio. Okay, let's go in. Do I have? I don't have it. Probably don't have. No, this is a different laptop that I don't have. Nice. So what do we do? I just I'll launch. Okay. We'll go. Okay, we'll do it this way. Okay, we'll go add new item. We'll put a table in here. Do I not have the Adventure Works here? We'll do it this way. Boop, boop, boop. Okay, so we go there, right? We have table one. What's that? All right. ID not null, primary key. Right. So we can go in here. We can make our changes, and we can look at our changes over here, right? So we don't have actually, yeah. So this is a good place to demo the Git Ignore, right? So we don't want this SUO file here. We don't want this bin debug. We don't want any of that stuff, right? So we need a Git Ignore file. Studio. So we go create here. So you can go to Git. So you can go to gitignore.io, which will now redirect you to that domain, and you can just type in like what kind of project it is, and you can have multiple projects here. So I can put Vim. So maybe I don't want my. I know that I've got a crazy guy that actually knows how to exit Vim, and I've just got to take these contents and I got to save them to the root. Right. So actually, what I can do, let's use some PowerShell to do that actually. dash web request. So the file just has to be called .git ignore and you can actually have .git ignore in subfolders of your repo if you have like certain directories you want to ignore different files. But these are just literally just rules. They're very simple. If it can, we don't want a file called .net words. We don't want start.svg, right? We don't want start.suo. Some of these are complex patterns, but it's basically like you can just put in the name of the file or star.extension that you don't want to have in there, right? So we go in here. We go there, right? And then we added that git ignore, right? Okay, now we have the git ignore, and we go look here. So when you type a git status on a directory, it's not going to tell you all the subfolders until you add things in that subfolder. But this view will do it, right? And you see that this shrunk. There used to be a lot more things. It wanted to add, and now it's not going to add. Not the SAU file and the bin folder and stuff like that, right? So we have our git ignore over here. So now we have our great stuff. We have our table, and we're going to say, right, and we're going to go over here and we're going to say added a SSDT project over here. We do commit all and push. Now there's a sync, there's a push and there's a pull, and then Visual Studio had the concept of sync. Sync is going to run several commands, a push and a pull. I don't like doing the sync command because I like to go through the manual steps myself because I just don't trust it. Although if it, I'd rather do stuff manually and know what stuff it filled at. Some people like the sync button. It's fine. It's valid to like the sync button. Just understand it's an abstraction, just like a code first ORM is an abstraction. You make a trade-off for those things, right? It gives you some development speed, and when it breaks, are you able to debug what goes wrong with it, right? Which is like an ORM is fine to use if you understand what's going on under the hood, and you can actually look at this is generating bad SQL or generating a bad plan, and I know how to rewrite my C# to deal with that, right? Like everything in engineering is a trade-off. Right? Okay, so I pushed that over there. I did that. Maybe we'll deploy. Just do a quick SSDT deploy, right? My shift button is wonky on this laptop. So we're going to really spin up here of SQL Server. Okay. Does anyone have any questions so far? I've done a lot of talking. I feel this goes a lot better when I can do it interactively in person or whatever, but just send any questions at all, comments, feedbacks.
I had never actually seen the Git Ignore page. That alone was worth this presentation. So
okay, that's great. I'm glad. Okay, so let us try this. Okay, so let's see if we connect. So we made a database here, right? Okay, so let's go connect. Is that connection going to work? No, later. Just it's like, why is Azure? Okay. I just want to try to publish this to show people what SSDT is. Yeah, is SSDT like is doing this SSDT thing completely? Is there anyone where this is completely new for, and this is like super valuable for me to keep going down this path for the next couple minutes?
I think most of us use SSDT on a regular basis.
That's good. Okay, I will just we're going to use SQL Server Authentication. Obviously never used like SA to like do this. I mean, I just literally spun up a Docker image. Right, connect to a database. Right, okay. New query, right? So we're gonna go here. Okay, so then we go here. Just to show you how we would like actually push this out. So we would go to publish, right? And you can go here, and you can use all. Okay, so we have browse. Once again, so this is a Docker image. So the Docker is like running like a little Linux container inside of. So there's no like AD auth that's easy to set up here. So that's why we're using. I mean, I generally recommend using AD or Azure AD username than just never using SA for any of this. This is you know of all the sins I've committed in my demo, this is probably the least. Okay, so we'll hit publish here, right? And we're gonna publish that over here. Will this work? Okay, and if we do this, I guess we'll talk about branching real quick. I normally never have 5 minutes, but okay, cool. So that's published. So we have the database over here, right? And of course I can't actually like. Oh, okay. So. All right, SQL login, right? Just so we can see we have the database here. 1433 databases, right? We have database fundamental, tables, table 1, cool, right? Okay, great. So let's talk about branching real quick now. So let's just say, so normally the way, and actually we'll do a whole pull request here, but we won't do anything big, right? But generally speaking, like every like story or a feature, however, if you're using agile stories, whatever, like you have like a feature or bug, you should make a branch for that. Okay, and the way you do that from the command line, you can do whatever feature slash. Okay, add column here. Okay, so now you're on a different branch over here. And if you go to Git changes, so this used to be TF team or this panel like 5 years ago, it's like called team something or TFS services or something. But anyway, you can see that we're not on the main or the master branch run feature. Add branches. You can go here and you can switch here. You can hit new branch over here, right? But we'll go here. We'll just make a quick change, right? And we'll just say description, right? Let's just whatever, right? Let's just escape that, right? And that's right. Oh, I never. Oh, I forgot. Actually, yeah, I'll do 2 quick things here. So let's say I'm working on this, right? Actually, let's I'm working on this, and all of a sudden, like there's some big emergency, right? Let's say there's a big emergency, and oh, we have too much data in this table 1. We have to make it a big int, right? Middle doing this work, I don't want to lose any of my work. I can stash this, right? So this is a temporary thing I can do. All right. And we can type the git stash command, or we can hit stash all. Right. So let's save our changes just to make sure. Visual Studio is really good about like your unsaved changes being part of this, but just we're gonna save the file, right? So when you stash stuff, that goes into like there's a separate queue of commits of temporary things. This doesn't go in a branch or anything, so this is a temporary thing. So I can go in here, right? Now that I had my like emergency, right? And I can go to main and I can whatever. I can make a new branch and do everything I'm about to demo you, or just do it directly. Maybe I'll just do it directly in main because it's such a big emergency. And I can make this a big int. I can save this, commit this to this branch, or what have you. But then when I'm done, I can go and I can come back here and I can either go here and restore the stashes. I can right click and restore the stash, or just to show you it both ways. Git stash pop, okay? And then that'll just restore that. See, it just says you want to reload, and it'll have my changes here, right? So the git stash is normally the thing I teach before I teach branches. But anyway, we go here, we add a thing, right? We'll and Barker, right? We'll go, and then we'll go in here and we'll say, well, right? So we go here, we commit all, we push that, okay? And it's going to push. So we're going to push that branch. Okay, successfully added that feature, right? And we'll go back to GitHub, right? I hate that there's that little bar when you're presenting in Teams. It's always in the center. It's very hard to hide. That is the most annoying thing ever. I always have to all the time, right? So I go to this branch over here, right? And you see, and it'll see up here it says feature add columns, which is a branch we made, had recent pushes less than a minute ago, create, compare, and pull request. So the way you generally, so there's a way to merge it with the command line or from the Visual Studio, but what you really want to do usually is you're working on a feature, you work on a branch, and then when you're ready to merge it back into main, you make a feature request, right? And so pull request, there's a pull request in like Azure DevOps and GitHub in Jira, but the concept of pull request is not built into the Git protocol natively. Just everyone just does it this way. So pull requests are not things that ever get like stored in a way between that you can migrate, but like but the branches will be there, so you can like recreate your pull request without like problems. So anyway, so I got this. I can go look at the files. So now we can do a code review for this, right? So we have our conversation here, right? We have our list of commits. I made my one commit. If we set up CI/CD, which is like that's like a whole other like hour talk, it can sit there and try to like build like the database and run quality checks and stuff like that. We could run SQL cop or something. If that, I don't know if SQL cop's still a thing, but you could do all that, and anything you can do from like command line, you can put in here at the check. You can at the very least try to make a DAC pack and make sure that the syntax is all correct. So we go here, we look at the changes. I can sit there and I can, so we can do, so someone else can come in and do a code review and be like, okay, nice, you use the brackets, right? Brackets, right? I can sit there and I can add a single comment or I can start a review, right? Now, when you start a review, you can sit there and say, so I'm not paying for, so assuming you're paying for GitHub and just paying for like this is like as far as paying for GitHub for like for a single project is something like your manager can put on their credit card, get expenses, it's like $5 a month, right? It's not a big deal there, but if you have like an actual license, you can sit there and say that reviews have to be approved, disapproved, and you need a certain number of viewers for on a pull request, to pass like code review and stuff. And so we're just going to submit this as a review, right? Anyway, we're going to go there, and I can sit there and I can see that you have, this is a positive comment, right? So I don't have to make any changes. I can say, okay, yes, I am awesome. I'm really good at writing stuff. All right, and I'm glad I agree with myself. But then basically you can go back and forth, add your changes, and then you can merge your pull request, which will take all these changes, put into main. There are 3 ways to do this. I always prefer to squash and merge, but basically rebase and merge will force it to play all these commits on top of the whatever branch you're merging into, like creating a merge commit will put them together and put them in a linear fashion. Squash and merge takes all the commits in this one feature branch, turns it into one commit, and puts it at the top of whatever you're merging into. I prefer squash and merge. Some people like, maybe they have long-lived branches, or for whatever reason they like to keep like the individual merges. The way I see it, like how I got to where I got when I was developing a feature, which especially like in Agile, where like this is like, hopefully less than 2 weeks of work. And hopefully like a day or two, how I got there, that doesn't need to go in like the ledger of the master branch of how I got there. It just needs to say that on a certain day I wrote this code, and all this is all the code I wrote for my feature, and that's where it exists. So I actually think the squash and merge gives you the right level of resolution for this history to be useful, because we don't need to know that I whatever, in the middle of developing a feature, like I made a typo here and a typo there or whatever, right? If that never actually, got deployed anywhere. So I select squash and merge, I hit confirm squash and merge, and then that code will be here. So this branch is going to be here. I can hit delete branch, but then I can go back to the code, and I can say 6 commits, right? So I sit there, we have a description, right? And this happens to say, and the commit will actually have a reference to number 1, which it knows is pull request number 1, so I can go back. So this is all built into like the GitHub metadata. That's not Git specific, but I can go look at that history and say that, okay, now I have the history, whatever notes are over here, and I can go back and look and told myself that I was awesome for using braces. And I can go back here and I can, like, later when I want to do new work, I go here and I can do a git pull, get my latest changes, which are not going to actually, they'll show my changes, and then I can be like, okay, there we go. Anyway, that's and any questions? That's about what I've got and what I could do in an hour, and I'm a little over.
Nope, that covers, I think, everyone's questions
Okay.
throughout. But yes, that was awesome. I think that covers everything that I had expected to see and then some on Git and how we should be using it as DBAs.
All right, cool. Okay, great. Yeah, I hope I inspired some of you that aren't using Git to use it, and if you're using it to, use it more. Basically. Okay, cool. Well, have a great day, everyone. Have a great rest of your day.
You as well.
All right. Bye.